Now, undertakers are reiterating their plea for people to hold shorter funerals like they did during COVID. This is due to power cuts affecting their ability to store bodies for long periods. Another nail in the coffin, excuse the pun, is that the burial costs are increasing. Now, this is due to higher running costs due to diesel purchases for generators. Let's get more on this from the National Funeral Practitioners Association's Mr. Dududu Maganu. Mr. Maganu, good morning and thank you very much for your time. Now, as an association, you've been quite vocal in the past weeks, lamenting the difficult position that load shedding has placed you and ultimately grieving families who might not get the bodies of their loved ones in a decent condition. We know that there's now a strong possibility that government will declare a state of disaster at Eskom. Firstly, just your views there.
Good morning and morning to your listeners. Yes, we are experiencing hard times. And it doesn't look like they're going anywhere anytime soon. We are hoping that government or the president will, in his address, give us a break as businesses and announce an exemption for businesses on load shedding. Sorry. As explained previously, a lot of small undertakers are taking a strain. Some of them can barely, stay above board because of the challenges of load shedding, and it's not getting any better. We're experiencing stage level 6. I think currently we've been told it will go to stage level 4 tomorrow. And
from today
it doesn't look like it's going to get any easier. Yeah.
But it's most certainly still very difficult.
The diesel cost is very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. I think the biggest challenge currently is the cost of just trying to run or keep the mortuaries running. We are using mainly diesel generators to be able to support as backup. But as I've said and mentioned before, that it becomes a bit of a challenge when a backup becomes mainstream electricity.
True.
We are constantly having to run our generators for more than 12 hours or 12 hours a day, and that is very, very costly. And, you know, a number of undertakers have now moved on the cost to the consumer.
Because
so
that was going to be my question, actually.
Is now taking the brunt.
And how have the clients been taking it? Are there none of them that are strongly opposed to this?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
I'm saying now with the clients carrying most of the cost, are there those that are strongly opposed or those that find it now quite hard to even bury their loved ones because they just don't have that money? We know with black families how expensive a funeral can even be. So if now there's going to be an additional cost, surely it must have now become somewhat of a challenge.
Yes, it is a challenge, particularly for those families who are battling with the costs of funerals, particularly where some of the families, the breadwinner is the one who passed on. So, you are having to now add additional costs because of load shedding to the funeral, and they are battling to now scramble around to try and find funds to pay for this service. And this is really putting a lot of pressure on a lot of families across the country. Not only businesses, but there's nothing we can do as well.
Most certainly. But now there's also the other option of burying a bit quicker, maybe making it 4 days or even less. How possible is that for some of the families that you've engaged and perhaps placed this offer for them?
Well, our colleagues have put that as a motion on the table. However, as NAFUPA SA, as we've said before, we do not believe that that is a solution for the current crisis that we are facing, because it puts a even much greater burden on the families to try and raise funds within 4 days. As you know, most of our families have insurance policies, and they need to go through and claim for them to be able to pay for these services. And if you find that they have challenges with the process of claiming, which can take anything from a day to 3 days. So for them to be pressured to pay or to conduct the funeral in 4 days, that puts immense pressure on a family that is already grieved.
And even
And
with those that have the
funds, a number of challenges.
And even with those that have the funds, many have come to know that it's somewhat of a tradition in many black families where you would take either that 4 or 5 days to grieve. You've got churches that are coming in to comfort the family. You've got loved ones from all over the country that must be there to witness the burial. You've also just got the community that must come in and really mourn the passing and come to accepting. So if everything happens so fast, it's almost quite traumatic, even if the money is there.
True. Thus, we say that motion is not really a solution for the current crisis. We need to engage a bit further on what other alternatives are there for us to be able to deal with the current crisis so that it does not put so much pressure on the businesses and also on the families as well. We are suggesting that as we are requesting that government looks at an option where businesses are exempted from this load shedding before things get any worse. Because load shedding, as you've heard, the forecast is that it will stay with us for another 2 to 3 years, and we cannot afford that. And by the end of this year, if this continues to go in this manner, a number of small businesses would have closed down. A number of people would have lost their jobs. You can also imagine, even though we talk about small business, we employ a small undertaker employs 5 to 6 people, and when conducting funerals, you also have casuals, drivers, additional drivers, which you employ when conducting funerals. So if an undertaker closes down, you're looking at 10 to 12 or 15 people who will no longer have an income. And how many of those can we really take? And if this is not solved, or we don't come up with a solution which is favorable for everyone, we will see a lot of undertakers, and particularly the small ones, closing down, having to close their doors because they can no longer carry the cost of staying open.
No, it's indeed very concerning. Mr. Maganu, thank you very much for your time this morning. That was Dududu Maganu, spokesperson for the National Funeral Practitioners Association.